Hi everybody. Welcome to the session today. Uh, Good afternoon. So, interesting topic we are going to be talking about today. A lot of noise about this on social media everywhere. People have been talking about this for a while. So, we talking to a lot of people who hire from Scalar. As a result, we also get some perspective around this. So, thought we will discuss this. So, hey, hi Abhimanyu. Here on mute, I think. Hello. Yeah, I can hear you. Correct, correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. So yes, now and like great to be on this again after a little bit of break.
Yes.
Hope your travels are going well. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
and on the point of the tech hiring challenge, so goes without saying actually all the noise which we all keep seeing and on Twitter. It's totally true,
Yeah.
not only in India, but actually it's a global problem. Like often in our conversations with founders and hiring managers, it's a very common phrase that there's a war for talent, particularly tech talent, that is going on right now between the companies, right? Uh,
Right.
reason of the war is at its core, what I feel is, like it's actually there are multiple reasons. Some of them are, variables which can be solved easily. Some would need more persistent effort. But net at the highest level, I think I would point to two. One is scarcity of tech talent at the first place. That there are a lot of companies who are looking to trying to hire the really top guys, and like India, unfortunately, till date doesn't really have those many tier one talent. Second is
Right.
also the hiring structure and the strategy and the policies that companies have been following for quite some time. So there are some I would say processes or policies set which are not best optimized. But
Hmm.
at the top level, definitely there's a massive demand for quality tech talent. Often like it's not very uncommon in India anymore for engineers to be getting salaries very similar to what otherwise people would get in US or Europe, right? Uh,
Yes. Yes.
salaries is not a bar, but despite that, companies are finding it very, very hard to hire quality tech, tech
Right.
folks on the teams.
So, one question there, trying to analyze the situation a little in a bigger way across the tech industry. What are some, macro trends that are there which seems to be pushing up this difficulty in hiring? Like, what is happening in the tech industry because of which, like the war for talent, as you're saying, that is happening? Is there something that has changed last few months, which is making engineers more in demand?
Right. Actually, we are living right now, the year 2021, most likely 2022 as well. These are, of course, as we all know, have been very unique years, right? These are not
Hmm.
usual years. Uh, actually, and now these connections might sound a little surprising, but I do believe, very strongly believe, that even the pandemic has interesting, the COVID pandemic was an interesting event, uh,
Right.
which also added to this massive surge in demand for tech engineers, right? And if you
Hmm.
see and of course there are other variables as well. What
Yeah.
COVID caused is that a lot of processes or our day-to-day activities that we used to often do without using much of tech, right? Let's say, for example, grocery buying for 90% of India was or 90, maybe even 95, 98% of the people, it was not an activity that involved much of tech, while it was a very important activity of our everyday life, right? Now, when pandemic stuck, that forced us to kind of figure out that how do we get groceries without stepping out of the home. It's very natural
Hmm.
that it is going to lead to, now if you see today, the number of digital applications which are really fastest growing startups, really massive startups now, which are only serving to small shop owners, Khata Book being one, Dukan app being another one, Bikai is the third startup, there's Dot Pay, which is another similar startup, right? All
Right.
these startups are valued in hundreds of millions of dollars. Like collectively, all these
Hmm.
startups which are catering to like just small shop owners would be multi-billion dollar as of today if we just combine their valuation. I am sure that within 6 months or 12 months we will have multiple unicorns just in this single space, right? Which is solving
Yeah.
one new problem which COVID caused, right? Now, the
Right.
second part was also the economic stimulus, right?
Hmm.
The amount of investment foreign direct investment, or even investment through Indian HNIs, or the investment funds, have massively boosted in 2020 and 2021, right? Now, if it is a world, there was this kind of article written by, I think, Anderson Horowitz quite a few years back, that software is going to eat the world. What that
Yeah,
means is
very
that,
famous article.
right. What that means is that in future, all the businesses, another example is, for example, Tesla. Tesla
Hmm.
today is one of the largest car company in the world, right?
Yeah.
And Tesla at its core is not an automobile company, it's a software company. Tesla is
Yes.
better because of the software it has, right?
Yeah.
Tesla have won the war because of the technology they have combined with the automobiles, right? Not just that they just
Hmm.
created a better automobile. Of course, they were able to create a better automobile because also they are much more tech driven, right?
Hmm.
So in future, like, this is pretty evident to everyone that software is going to command every single industry, right?
Hmm.
And that is why there is so much capital flowing into the tech ecosystem, right? And when there is so
Right.
much capital in the tech ecosystem, and they know that we need to invest more in technology, it is very obvious that everyone is going to require the best software engineers out there, right? And when,
Right.
like, then it comes into the play, the system of supply and demand. As we all know that, unfortunately, despite producing maybe a couple of million software engineers every year in India, actually, by the numbers, India produce close to 15, 16 lakhs engineers every year who graduate, who finish any engineering course, right? Despite
Over
that,
a million,
actually,
that means. Yeah.
over a million, right? It's 1.5 to 1.6 million engineers who are being given degree of a engineer every year, right? Uh,
Yeah. On paper, software engineers you're
on
producing.
paper, yeah, like that many degrees are being given out. Despite that, it is unfortunate that we, like, candidly, and it might sound little pinching to some as well, but the reality is that we do not really produce even 10,000 quality engineers in India in a year,
Hmm.
uh, and which I would attribute to our broken education system. But net, what this have led to is massive demand but very limited supply. There are very few very skilled engineers in the ecosystem, but every company is looking for all of them, and that is what
Right.
have led to the war for talent. That like the salaries have skyrocketed,
Yes.
and all of that has happened.
Right, right. Now, given that that has happened, I think everybody just keeps talking about how it's a competitive market. Like, I think every day, all these tech founders who are there on my Twitter, I just keep seeing everybody saying it's competitive market. Now, uh, I have also recently I was talking to a friend of mine. He has started his own startup. He's not a tech guy. He was hiring for tech people. He's saying market is competitive. He was saying कि यार as an engineer यार तुम बताओ मतलब what does competitive mean मतलब what should I do to compete better in this market, how do I get more people. So can you shed some light on that, like what does being in a competitive market mean for somebody who is hiring, what should they
Right,
compete on, like compensation, work life balance,
right.
kind of work, a lot of things.
Right. No, so when we say, and actually, I'm sure that we both are engineers ourselves. I'm sure everyone who is listening to us are engineers as well. And hand to heart,
Hmm.
what does an engineer look for? Like, if I'm trying to build a tier one, tech team, um, and if I want the best people to come and join me, I need to think that why should someone join me, right? Um,
Hey.
and if we just have a candid conversation that as an engineer, if I am considering moving into a new team, considering a new company, what are the things that would really matter to me, right? Of course, no question that salary, which always comes into the mind of hiring manager, candidate, everyone, that's obvious. So put that aside. Of course, I would not go for half my salary. But another interesting fact is that, at least this is my perception, and this is what I hear from most of the others as well. Anyone who is really solid in tech, most of them, like, they would have multiple options which will be 1920 to each other, right? Let's
Yeah.
say if my current salary might be, say, X, I might have three offers. The three offers might be, one might be 20, one might be 22, one might be 18, right? Now, if anyone sits back and thinks, any rational person would know that a lakh, 5% of salary difference, whether I get 1 lakh, or let's say 2 lakh in my account every month, or I get 1,97,000, it doesn't really make any material difference to my life, right? So if you are looking to hire tier one tech engineers, one thing that I always suggest is that you should be competitive. You cannot hope, you should be at the level at which on an average people get. You cannot hope that I will pay half the salary but still I'll get the best people. But at the same time, know the fact that you will not be able to hire the best people only by increasing the salary, right? Because
Hmm.
beyond a point
True.
it's practically impossible. And you have to look at other factors, right? Then what are the other factors? The other factors being, like, first, I think as every engineer, I would, like, I can again at least say this for myself, and I hear this from a lot of other engineers as well. Even if someone is paying more, but if I feel that the quality of work that I will have to do is going to be frustrating for me, I will not really enjoy it, right?
Hmm.
Or the kind of people that I will be working with, I do not really feel that like it will be a fun environment to work, right?
Right.
Or I will not really feel satisfied that why am I doing whatever I'm building, right? All of these start playing an important role. One very interesting thing might be there, that overall interview experience itself plays a massive role, right? How did you treat the person giving the interview during the interviews, right? Were they taken for granted? Was there a lot of ghosting, that no update? Now let's say even the recruitment team might be playing a very small role in the entire process, but how they interact with the people interviewing with your company also plays a massive role, right?
Yeah.
So to being
True.
competitive doesn't only mean that you have to be competitive on the salaries. Yes, you will have to be at par with salary, but salary alone will not help you find the best people.
It's like the
I
necessary, not sufficient condition.
But that's necessary but not sufficient, right? Because as we all say that anyone in the market can pay high salary. Everyone have massive
Yeah.
funding. Anyone can give salaries, right?
True.
I think apart from that, it is very important as a, like, I can maybe share some of my tricks that I feel that because of
Sure.
which
Sure.
some really great people came and joined Scalar, right? One is, I think, for most of the good people, having a mission driven, or that why should I be doing this, why is it more than just going to office at 10, coming back at access and earning some money. Is there something more about it, right? So
Hmm.
you should tell, and I'm sure that any startup, if I'm particularly talking about the startup here, I'm sure that every startup does start with a mission, that this is
Yeah.
what we are trying to fix, right? Try and make sure that in the very beginning itself you align and tell people that what this company is about, why
Hmm.
it matters what we are doing, right? Most of
Right.
the companies, like, I do believe that most of the companies would have something. So do not feel that fine, he's just a coder, why would he bother? We are paying him salary and he will join. No, that's not it, right? For example, let's say if someone is running a fintech firm, right? What
Yeah.
kind of impact is it making? I'm sure there might be stories of a tier 3 shopkeeper and how his entire family's life has transformed because of the better solutions that are built by this fintech company, right?
Right.
Uh, so I think to begin with, bringing this out is very
Mission
important. And
mission alignment is important
mission
there. Yeah.
alignment is super important. And I think what I believe is that anyone who is joining your company, they are becoming your partner in a way, right?
Hmm.
They might not be investing their money, but they are investing their life, their many years of their life into your organization. So it is important that you treat them the same way, right? uh, and that, I think, that a small thing makes a huge difference even in the long term, not only to join but even after joining, how people behave when they feel to be part of a team. It creates a massive difference, right?
Yeah.
The other one being, I think, being very communicative, that fine, if there's an interview scheduled, it's okay, everyone understand that sometime it might have to be rescheduled. uh, but not being communicative about things, people, and let's say even after interviews, at least updating with an update note that like, this is done, we will be sharing update in this timeline. Even if
Yeah.
things didn't work out, make sure that like, people are updated about it, right? People do not like ghosting. None of us like
Yeah.
ghosting from anyone. uh, third and very important thing is, and which is also related to, this is, I think, something that a very senior recruiter from a really good company had told me, that, yeah, whether irrespective of whether someone joins the company or not, if they have interviewed with you, they should go and say great things about your company, right? Even
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
not join right away, but if they, like, see, tech ecosystem is very well connected ecosystem. One engineer who might have given interview with you, either with respective of whether he gets selected, joins or doesn't join, treat them in a way that they go and tell all their friends that, either that, hey, I'm joining this company and it's a really great company, you should also come here,
Yes.
or that, yeah, I am not joining for whatever reason, because either I got rejected in the interview or I am thinking of joining somewhere else, but it is a great company, right?
Right,
And
right,
there
right.
you can reap the benefits of the network effect or the virality, that if you
Yeah,
can make sure that every single person interacting with your company goes with very high, very a lot of positivity, the net
right.
promoter score of people interacting with your company should be in a sense very high. And if that is
Yeah,
happening, you will see that there's a very organic set of people who just come and join your company, right? The
correct,
third
correct, correct. Yeah.
mistake that I see people, a lot of early stage founders making, and to be honest, it's very easy to make that mistake, which is getting into this feeling ki yaar, I will hire people from my network, my college, my juniors, my seniors, etc., etc. That's a
Hmm.
very big mistake. See, it's a very big world out there. The talent is almost equally distributed across an entire world, right? If
Yeah,
you are keeping yourself limited to a very small subset of people, if you just think very logically, what is the probability that the best people for your company would be in your personal network? The probability is very low. You are actually
hmm.
losing out on a lot of really great people if you are kind of limiting yourself to, only the people who you personally know, right? It's okay in the
Right.
very early stage when you are two, three, four people, because fine, those people might know you better, you might know them better, etc. But as
Yeah.
quickly as your company becomes slightly bigger, you should be open for everyone.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Makes sense. Right. About that point about, when you are not even selected, even then people going out and telling about a company. And I have had a similar experience. I think I wish they have were sponsors, but they have not paid me to say this. But Gojek, I had a very great experience. I
Yeah,
remember when I interviewed. First time interview did not get selected, but I went and told a lot of my friends, ki, such a
right,
nice process.
right,
Because who is interviewing, after the interview they ask, like, if you have questions for the company, the talent acquisition person asks you that, can the process be better anyway, do you have any suggestions?
right.
The person who referred me, they also talked to me a week later. What are you doing in life and all, they asked me after that. So that whole thing definitely plays out well. And I
No,
think
so
I went out,
Gojek,
told 20, 25 people, ki, go and interview
correct,
for this company because you loved
correct,
interviewing itself.
correct, correct. No, so Gojek is a great example, and every time I think Arnav, we speak with Ajay, if you see that, like despite having built one of the best tech team, Gojek has definitely built one of the best tech team globally. I wouldn't even say just in India, right?
Yeah,
But I have never heard Ajay complaining about that there's a issue of hiring,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
right.
as I said, that if you keep these fundamentals right, you will
Hmm.
see that in inorganic way, in non-transactional way, your lot of good people will start coming towards you.
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah. That's definitely right. So moving on to another thing, which is basically continuing from what you said, that the people looking at only my circles or my college or something like that. Uh, some companies, I just was interacting with some people who are also like partnering with us to hire. Some of them saying, we have been trying to interview 100 people, 200 people, and then we're not getting people. We're not getting the right talent. They're also
Right.
saying that. So I mean, they say it's a top of the funnel problem. Like, we're probably, the pool is not right. So what can people do about that? I mean, maybe are they looking at the wrong pool, or do they have to like sort of widen their scope? Do they have to
Right.
index on other things? Is there something better to be done there itself?
Right, 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 right. No, so I see this rooted. Actually, see, if you see most of the even larger companies, if you look at their internal policies of who to interview for a particular team,
Hmm.
often you would see that there might be certain policies which might have made sense 10, 20 years back, but do not make sense today, right? So, for example,
Yeah,
often companies might have that here is list of 30 colleges from where we hire, right?
yeah,
Now, if we look at today, and particularly let me talk about the world post pandemic, right?
yeah,
No one, like anyone who joined college after year 2020, 2020, no one is visiting any campus, irrespective of which college they joined, right? Everyone is learning online, right? Now, if everyone is learning online, how does which college someone went to matter, right? So why would you want to
correct.
restrict that we are only going to hire from these set of colleges and not open it up to everyone, right? Um, I recall, whenever, like even at Interview Bait and Scaler, whenever a company said that we do not care about college, give us
Hmm.
like which college someone went to, even which branch someone did engineering in, It doesn't matter. Here is what we look for. Here is what kind of experience they should have in the past. And here are our, like, it could be online test, it could be a series of interviews. It have never happened that these companies are not finding quite a few people who might not be coming from this traditional background but might still become extremely valuable contributors to their tech teams, right? So
Hmm.
I think that is one, there is definitely one top of the funnel problem that a lot of, and this is actually, very deep rooted bias, not only in companies, but in the minds of many as well. And actually, I see the reason behind that as well. If I
Hmm.
look at 1990 or even early 2000s, there was very little internet penetration, right? So for anyone to build skills, it is important to be at the right place. Unless you are in the campus of a good university, how would you learn
Yeah.
otherwise, right? You will not be surrounded by the good people, you will not have good people to guide you. So back then it was natural that most of the people who would be good would be coming from a good college, right?
Hmm.
However, if we talk about world after 2015 or 2016 in India, if I may say, after Geo launched,
Zero launch. Yeah.
almost every person had access to very fast internet. Anyone can access the highest quality community. They can learn online. Let's say when, people who are, let's say, I very strongly believe that in 5 years all the universities will be entirely online, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so in today's world, this thing actually is kind of not really valid, that someone who is good at certain skills have to come from a particular university, right? Or they must have had a lot of experience in the domain. Like, another very interesting thing that I see is that there might be people who might be doing sales, or they might be a legal professional, or might be an HR professional for many years, and then they will spend a year or two building the tech skills, and
Hmm.
then they also will have, and actually often these people are stronger than someone who is only in tech, because they will have so much depth on a certain business function as well, right? And then they also have learned all the tech using internet. So there is definitely one top of the funnel problem, in the sense that companies should be more focused on the skills, and
Right.
not, the background, college, degree, branch, etc.
Right.
So
Right.
that I do believe that, and second is also that, the problem of the selection ratios, that someone have interviewed hundreds of companies, hundreds of candidates, and still being
Uh,
able to just pull out one or two offer, right? I think for that, what need to exist, and actually at Skiller we are trying to build what we internally call fair play, which is that, if we know that these are the hard skills that matter for a company,
yeah.
so we have partnered with quite a few companies where we have kind of gotten into an understanding with them that we will evaluate people on these certain set of skills, whatever you look for.
Right.
Anyone who have proved that they are really good at the skills that you look for, you should not even ask for their resume. You should not care that which year did they graduate, which company did they work at earlier, which college
Right.
did they come to. But if they check all your boxes, just take their interview, and then of course hire
Right.
them. If now, of course, now if people have been evaluated already, then the chances that, like, if you interview 100 people who have been evaluated on all the skills already, then I very strongly believe that the, hiring ratio would be very, very high, right? In future,
Right.
what I do believe is that, it should be a level playing field for all the companies. It should be fair play for everyone, and
Right.
there would be a mechanism where, people can showcase their talent in a very calibrated way. So instead
Yes.
of having to look at a degree to kind of guess whether the person would be good or not, you can look at objective skills and then
Yeah.
hire. I think that would also fix the issue of having to interview so many people and then realizing that most of them do not know what I am looking for.
Right. 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 Having a good validation filter before that, and I think.
Right.
So I mean, I'm also very excited that you're building this. And in fact, people who are watching the video, if you are hiring for talent, if you have any inputs for us, feel free to reach out, because we are right now building that thing up. Because like obviously, like a BTech degree is not a suitable only validation criteria anymore. We need better ways to surface up good candidates. So I mean, I am very hopeful of that. I think because I saw some actually comments, for example. So Yogesh had commented that if somebody does not have a degree, they sometimes are not qualified just out of the job description itself, even if they have good skills. So creating mechanism for them to showcase that better would be something really
Right,
interesting.
right, right. So, Yogesh, this is exactly the problem. Like even if I do not have a degree, or if I do not have a, let's say degree in a certain stream, but if I possess all the skills, there's no reason why. Like it's good for the company to hire you. So, if the current process, the current job description, etc., is not allowing that, that is something wrong that needs to be fixed.
Right, right. So we have got two very interesting questions. Before I ask some of the more questions I had for you, we got a question from Prashant, who possibly is a early stage founder, it seems like, and he's just asking that very very a good point he has made, that early stage hiring, it's both costly in terms of, I think, time, energy, money, everywhere it's costly, and it's also a faith game. A very interesting point he has said. You are taking a leap of faith with the person. And a lot of people, I think, candidates also don't understand that when you are taking a leap of faith with the startup is also taking a leap of faith with you. So he's asking, as a founder, any steps to follow, anything to look out for.
Right, right, right. No, so as an early stage founder, what I strongly believe is that, see, uh, hiring is too costly. Of course, if we look at, if I'm running a very young stage startup, maybe I might not have raised any funds, or I might have raised very small amount of funds. It might be hard or impossible to pay the match the cash salary that, let's say, a Google or Microsoft or Amazon might pay, right? However,
Right.
that being said, with the current stories, like Zomato IPO, and then a lot of new IPOs coming in, like IPO, Freshworks IPO, what I see is that even in the mind of young engineers, people have now, people do understand the value of equity, of owning equity of the company. Here, I think, Arnav, you yourself might might have a fascination about the amount of dollars made through the Zomato IPO. But net, I think it's not a fairy tale anymore, that through equity ownership people can create massive amount of wealth, right? Thousands of people
Yeah.
in India have become crorepati's, just because they joined a right company at the early stage, a young startup at the early stage, right? However, as a
Yeah.
founder as well, I think what I would say, that you will have to be very generous with equity. If you cannot see, like, put yourself in the shoe of that engineer. An engineer
Hmm.
who can, let's say, go work for a big company, get massive salary, also equity as well. Of course, even the larger companies give equity. But the fact is, and this is something that you will have to narrate and tell, that, see, if you go for a Google, which is maybe already close to $1 trillion company, the equity would still grow. Nothing against Google. The equity will not fall. I'm not saying that Google is going to shut down, but it
Yeah.
can maybe double. It can max. Like a $1 trillion company can become a $2 trillion company. It can maybe become a $3 trillion company, but it cannot become a $20 trillion company, right? That's kind of practically impossible to happen in next 5 or 10 years, right? But at the same time, if it is a young startup, let's say if your startup currently is at very early stage, let's say $10 million valued at $10 million, or let's say even mid stage, which is somewhere between 100 to $500 million, then it is very much possible that the company grows from where it is to, let's say, 10 times or even 50 times, just in a couple of
Yeah.
years, right? Because any
Yeah.
startup grows very fast. So
Right.
the value for them would be that if you are still paying them the similar amount in equity, then
Yeah.
here the equity has a high chance of becoming 10 times or 20 times or 50 times. But that opportunity or that possibility doesn't exist if the person joins a big company, right? But that being said, as a founder, I think you will have to be very generous with equity if you are not able to pay in fixed cash. Another thing is
Right.
that, again, put yourself in the shoes of an engineer and think whether it makes sense or not. Even in cash, while some people might be willing to take slightly lower salaries, but I personally do not advise anyone to take up a salary which is not even enough for your personal needs, right? If someone has a
Hmm.
lifestyle which needs them some 50-70,000 rupees a month, taking salary less than that is practically not possible. My responsibilities, my personal lifestyle, my
True. True.
needs. So you will have to match that. There's no point hoping for something which is practically very hard to happen and then being
It's
frustrated
cost
about
of
it.
doing business. I mean,
Cost of doing
you have
business, you
to.
have to consider that as cost
It's
of doing
part of
business.
the inputs of your product, after
Correct,
all. Yeah.
correct. So you will have to figure out that how do you, get enough funds to at least pay that much salary, either through your revenue or funding, and for the
Yeah.
rest, to make sure that you are generous with giving equity.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So we have two more interesting questions. So about Vikas and Sayani have asked, and we'll go one by one. So Vikas asked about like what can we do for offer drop-offs, which seems like from a company perspective, somebody who is hiring. So
Correct. Right, right, right.
I mean, why does that happen? And are there
Yeah.
any things that as a when you're hiring you can do something to
Right, right, right. No, so offer drop off is, of course, a practical thing. It's a real thing. When someone now, let's again, to consider there are two ways to look at the problem. Offer drop off do happen when we are on the other side of the table. When I am hiring, it is natural that I can be frustrated about it. That like why did this guy take the offer and then said that he will not join or she will not join. On the other side, let's
yeah
put ourselves on the other side of the table. That I am a person who, let's say, is looking for a new job, thinking of changing the job. It's very natural that in the process I'm gonna think about that what is the best possible opportunity for me, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like whenever I'm
yeah
doing something new, let's say if I'm starting a startup, I will explore that what is the best idea to work on, right? It's not that whatever
right
first idea I thought I will just bring out that.
yeah
Or let's say if I'm raising funding, I will see that if I have multi options to raise from multiple investors, who is the best investor for the company, who will be able to add the maximum amount of value, right? So even as an engineer or as an employee, it is very natural. It is right that a person would evaluate multiple options, right?
right
Uh, that being said, I think a little good transparency and why offer drop-offs happen is that if there is lack of trust or miscommunication between the employers and the candidate, which is actually unfortunately it is a norm rather than
Mhm.
being an exception, that
yeah
candidates would not be willing to able to express what they really have in their mind. Same with the counterpart. Uh, so what that what that leads to is that I got one offer, and then of course I want to see that what other opportunity might be out there, and then I would go speak to multiple people, and then of course I can only work at one place, so I'll
yeah
have to turn the other down. Now the ways to address it, what has worked for me, right? One is that a lot of candidness and transparency with the candidates help. That if I am offering someone, I would tell them that, see, like first thing, for example, I wouldn't base someone's salary on their previous salary. I wouldn't say that give me, like your past was X, so I will give you Y, right? I will give you
yeah
20% hike, 30% hike, etc. That is not the right framework, right? You should have your salary bands, that what is the salary budget you have for a particular role. You should
right
evaluate whether the person fits into that budget or not, and you should make an offer in that band, right? Given the amount of disparity that Indian ecosystem have in the salaries, that the same person might be at a salary of 3 lakhs, he can get an offer of 6 lakhs and 10 lakhs and 15 lakhs and 20 lakhs. Now this is
right
bad. This is what leads to the drop offs, right?
yeah
uh, but if you are very candid that, see, I don't care what your past salary is, this is what my salary budget is, this is what I can
yeah
offer you. And second thing I want to kind of again, that if I offer you, if I'm making you this offer without even knowing what your last salary etc was, just one thing is
right
that do not accept the offer until and unless you are serious about it, until and unless you are sure that, fine, making an offer is my job, making an offer doesn't make you obliged to join, right? But only thing I
yes
can request for is that accept when you are sure that you want to join, right? And it's
makes
fine
sense correct
if you are not sure, do not accept it. That's okay. I can wait for maybe 4 or 5 days if there are some other interviews going on. I think this candidness and transparency, I do not feel
yeah
bad if someone I am making an offer says that I am also giving interviews at other place. Fine, yeah, that's your right, and you should do that, right? uh,
yeah
and I would then candidly say that, see, if you have other processes going on and if you want to finish them, do it. Do not accept my offer yet. I will also continue interviewing more people. But once you
correct
accept, stating this out, that, yeah, once you accept, I would trust on
yeah
you that then you are
Hmm.
going to join. Like one thing that we do at Scalar, which might sound very, fascinating to many, that often as soon as someone accepts the offer, we send the welcome kit, laptop, mobile, etc. right away after that, even before joining, right?
yeah
And because that is the kind of trust we are putting on the other person, that, yeah, if you have accepted, like, we believe that you will be joining. It's not that then you will run away, right? And trust is
yeah
always a two-way street, and it has to be started by someone, right? If
correct
you do this, then generally, like, I can say that 99% of the cases you will not see drop-offs.
Kunal Shah talked about like free charge days long back in one of
Right,
his threads. He talked about like they used to
right,
give 1 year earlier, like PPO. If they would roll out a PPO third year of the college, they would
right,
say like use this laptop for fourth year of your college
right,
and
right,
all
right,
of that.
right.
So
And
yeah, yeah,
by showing trust on people and being candid with them, instead of beating around the bush and like trying to just manipulate and push people to join. Instead of that, be candid, show trust, and that works
yes,
for me. See, no one is a bad person, everyone. And if you acknowledge that, yeah, I'm okay, if you are exploring if there could be anything better, but this is what we have, and if you have full conviction that you like this, then just then accept and then join. I think that
right.
that helps a lot.
Right, right. On the other side of the coin, though, and this is also gets talked about a bit. So, Saini has a question that do you think there could be a move for the industry towards blacklisting candidates who shop around for offers? Because sometimes founders and all talk about this thing on Twitter that we
Okay,
should do something
okay,
about
yeah,
this.
yeah. No, so
What do you
I
think?
can say this very candidly, and there might be people who, might differ to agree, and which is totally okay. We can always have a healthy debate on it. I very strongly believe that it will never happen.
Hmm,
This threat that people give that we will blacklist you X Y Z. This neither it is right nor it will
right,
ever happen. Like
hmm,
it's a open market. A
right,
person who is good with their skills, they have a right to go and work wherever they think it is best for them, right?
right,
Uh, Going back on a commitment is something bad, that I would agree that like giving a commitment that yes, I'm going to join you on so and so date, and then kind of on the last day saying that it's not going to happen is not a good thing.
hmm,
However, like what do we mean by shop around? Shop around, like like, see, if I am looking for a new job, I will speak to 10 different employers. I will
right,
evaluate them all against each other, right? And I'll see that what
right,
is best for my career. It might be related to what kind of work am I getting at a workplace. It might not necessarily be about salary, right? And as an
yeah,
individual, as a employee, as a person in the ecosystem, that's my right. No one can take that away, right?
right,
So, like, trust me, to all the audience, if someone ever says that if you apply to multiple companies then you will be blacklisted, etc., etc., it's all bullshit. It doesn't happen. It will never happen. That being
yeah,
said, of course, being professional is very important. If you are not sure and sincere about whether you will join the company or not, then do not accept the offer. Tell them that
correct,
I need
makes
more time to think about it. There are some other conversations which are going on. I want to evaluate them as well, and express just that I never wanted to commit and then go back. If I accept, then I will join, right? So just
right,
give me some time to think through, to make my mind to commit, and once I commit, then I'll join. That is the right approach. Do not this blacklisting, etc., etc., or this carteling of the ecosystem, that will never happen. At least I have very strongly believe that India is a very open country with a lot of
yeah.
free market dynamics. It will never happen.
But this industry itself very open market here. I mean,
Yeah, correct, correct.
uh, even if somebody thinks in this direction, I think they themselves would want to keep on hiring better people. That's why they will never do something like this.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So there were some comments, and also like I had this question as well for you, which I was just curating about and I thought about. So how about this? Like when we talk about the competitive market in the backdrop of that, and then there is also a lot of discussion that people who are hiring talk about that. Uh,
Right,
Hiring senior engineers if like you need people to just hit the ground running, start off with production code immediately, that sometimes the concern is there.
right,
Some other people think that it's better to hire junior people and sort of develop the culture and skill within the organization.
right.
People talk about pros and cons of both approach, and I think depends also on situations and all. So what are your thoughts on this, like which approach is better in what situations?
Right, right, right. No, so just like everything else, world is never black and white. There's no silver bullet. There's always a duality that exists
Yeah,
in the decisions, right? So I wouldn't say that it is always better to only hire senior folks or only hire fresh out of college grads. There have to be a balance. The both kind of talent at its unique value. Now,
hmm,
if you look at hiring people who you might have directly from the college, or maybe you might have hired them as interns, and then they end up joining, they like, at least this is my experience, that people who have kind of grown up with your team, they become kind of integral part of the team. Usually, for example, the retention rates of the people who might have joined from college, or their understanding of the systems or the culture, etc., is massively different, right? So
yeah,
freshers, etc., always add massive value to any team. That being said, however, at the same time, you also need some people who might have seen the process of uh, building the team, building the culture, building the processes, code review processes, deployment processes multiple times in the past, right? So
Hmm.
that they would be much faster at it, right? They would
Yeah.
be able to guide others on how to go about things instead of having to kind of reinvent the wheel for everything, right?
Right.
So if a company has, let's say, if I talk about, the journey of a startup from its birth, that let's say two, three co-founder coming together saying that, we are gonna set up this company, right? And
Right.
then from there, if the co-founder themselves have this belief that, we have a strong tech leadership in the company from day zero,
Yeah.
then you might very well just go with the fact that, fine, we will just hire some, young guys, we can guide them ourselves, and the team can build out. That is what
Right.
happened with us to quite an extent, because me and Shuman, we both were hardcore engineers. When
Hmm.
Tushar joined, we knew that three of us, we can give guidance to, even if we are hiring someone who is still in college or who is just out of college, right?
Right.
But at the same time, let's say if you are a startup which doesn't have a strong tech leadership yet, which is okay, a lot of time non-tech founders might start the company and it might already be at a good stage. In
Right.
that case, I think it's better to get some tech leadership by hiring some senior people before
Right.
onboarding a lot of freshers, because in that case what would happen is that you might have a lot of young guns who have a lot of energy, a lot of will to do a lot of things, but they do not
Right.
have guidance. They're kind of stuck on something and they are not getting unblocked, so that creates a bad
Right.
situation. So as I
Yeah.
said, there's duality. There is no single one answer. Both a senior talent or the fresh young talent both had massive value in different ways, and you should kind of keep a balance between the two.
Right. 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 Makes sense. I think that's people who are hiring right now, just seeing it, I think would be good advice for them. Um, the other thing which is a little contextual about, like, because this whole hiring crunch is has happened actually in the backdrop of COVID itself. So things have changed. Obviously, people are working remotely. The hiring itself has to happen remotely as well, and then the onboarding also has to happen remotely, which the dynamics are different from, onboarding junior people in an office space. So like how much, like, the sort of the changes that we have done in terms of how we are working because of COVID, how much has that impacted the talent crunch? And
Right.
when somebody is hiring or onboarding specifically for this reason, are there any steps we should take?
Right, right, right. No, so I think the COVID situation is here, and at least what I foresee is that it's not something that's gonna, change in a very short span of time. At
Hmm.
least next few years, I think the situation, behavior is gonna remain the same, right? So it is very
Yeah.
important for companies to adopt the virtual ways. So, for example, just I think couple of weeks back, we did a scalar virtual career fair, right? Like in the earlier
Yeah.
days, let's say it was very hard to imagine that entire campus placement drive could happen virtually, right? In
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
2 days of virtual career fair, if I'm not wrong, close to 100 offers got rolled out, right? Imagine that in
Hmm.
2 days, so many interviews happened and 100 offers to software engineers got rolled out, right?
Right.
Now, adapting all these things are super important. Companies who wanted to actually, see, some companies are going to do this. They are going to perfect their game of online hiring, right? There are so
Yeah.
many people who have joined Scalar in last many years who, to be very honest, even I have not never met personally, right, in person.
Yeah.
Not only hiring, but hiring, onboarding, getting integrated into the entire system, creating massive impact. All of that happens without ever meeting in person, right? Um, so kind of accepting that and working with that is
Yeah.
something that people will have to learn. uh, Opting for, like, as of today, I think at least in the software engineering world, pretty much all the companies have adopted to the fact that fine, all the interviews are going to be remote and online. uh,
Yeah.
there's no other way around that, right? But despite that, very few companies have actually adapted the right tools, right?
Huh. Huh.
Still the interviewing process. So, for example, this virtual career fair we conducted recently, there are actually now very modern. Like, what I realize is that there are such advanced tools available now, while
Right.
majority of the companies are still just living with a Hangout meeting or Zoom meeting, right? Uh,
Hmm.
so I think adapting these advanced techniques or more immersive interaction is also something that companies should focus on, both for
Right.
hiring and onboarding.
Right. No, that's completely correct. Yeah. I mean, people should
They
probably, I
don't,
think, look at other companies who have been doing remote for maybe 5-10 years. There's a lot of things to learn from there. I think this Basecamp had a whole that I think 30
right,
point manifesto on how
right.
to work asynchronously, hire asynchronously, all of that. So I think there are places where you can learn that from.
GitLab, Basecamp, these all companies have set great precedents. And actually, it's not just about the tools; it's also a lot about the process and the mindset. Um,
Hmm.
right. So I think kind of adapting that now is, like earlier it was a choice that we want to be remote first or not.
Yeah.
Now you have to. You cannot survive if you do not change yourself.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. And I think I've been hearing from very senior people at Google, Microsoft, they're also saying that, even if say we go down to zero COVID cases, Delta variant, everything goes away, it's not like companies would be flying you to the offices and doing interviews again, back again. That's probably never going to happen. So, the whole hiring onboarding process, you have to, develop better ways to do it in this format only going forward. Yeah. Right. So there is another think question for hiring, and this is again Prashant has asked. Although I think he has asked very specifically for Flutter, but I think this question is very pertinent that he's asking that he's from early stage, not Pang, and maybe competitive programming skills of the person. Does that matter or does that not matter versus their expertise in that dedicated technology? Uh, so I think this is something I have heard from some of my friends also who are early stage founders and who are not extremely strong in tech themselves. So they sometimes ask this question that should we index on DS algo skills? Should we only look at tech skills? How should they go about doing it? So any thoughts on this?
Right. Actually, to be very candid, I am not a expert Flutter developer, but no, what I believe is you might have better inputs on it.
I think
Uh,
the Flutter one I can add some inputs, but I would want you to probably talk about in general, like like say it could be any other developer people who are looking to hire, maybe say React or something like that. So
right.
as an early stage founder, how do you sort of
Right.
balance this, problem solving skills versus technology competency? Because say
Right.
Google does not index on technology competency at all because they know that they will come in, they will learn the technology in 2 months, they will do it. As an early stage startup, you can't afford that. You don't have the tools to give them to learn as well. So how do we
Correct.
go about balancing this?
No, I can talk about my personal experience of hiring. I have hired people with different kind of backgrounds, skill sets, etc. If I'm hiring someone who I hope to be, my hope is that the person will be contributing to, solving some interesting problems. So see, if I'm hiring an engineer, I can look at the engineer in two ways. That I have got these mock-ups designed from a designer, and I only
Hmm.
want someone to translate that into an app, right? If I'm looking at someone only for this transactional job, then
Right.
probably I will only look at that, like, do you know development well? Do you know, let's say, Flutter or React Native or whatever I want to build this on? Can you just do this job or not? Right. That being said, however, what I have seen is that in the journey of a startup, like you evolve a lot. Your expectation from a colleague will not be limited to this. Your expectation from colleague would be a lot more things will
Yes.
evolve, right? There would be some very interesting problems that will emerge that we have not even seen today, right? And you
Right.
would expect the person to be able to contribute meaningfully to solving those problems, right? Let's say
Right.
someone, like, I have had one colleague in my team in the past who would say, yaar, ki na, don't ask me to solve problem, give me a mock, I will transform that into a web page or a app screen. Now, while definitely he adds value, but he will not be the most valuable person in the team, right? uh, and with that lens in mind, what I see is that, while of course, asking to revert a binary tree invert a binary tree is not a great problem to ask, but
Hmm.
you should not let go of the problem solving entirely. I'm not saying that you
Hmm.
should be asking certain fancy DS algorithms in the interview, but you should
Yeah.
evaluate on that how good the person is at solving abstract problems, things that they have
Hmm.
not seen before. Are they able to logically break it down into smaller sub problems, build some solution on it? It's okay if these are not perfect solutions, but are they able to think on their feet? Or are they
Right.
people, who just know the framework or, a certain language, and they can just, implement something? Oh, wow. We have third guest on the
Yes.
show. All right.
Very low
Uh,
salary demands can be hired.
but will ghost you after getting the offer. All right. So yeah, Prashant, to answer your question, I wouldn't suggest to discount the problem solving entirely. You should kind of look for not looking for any specific DS or algos, but look try to evaluate whether they are good at problem solving or not. Um,
Right.
then, however, in the early stage startup, one thing that I also recommend is that you shouldn't hire, people who only know problem solving and nothing else. Because see, Google or
Yeah.
Amazon can give them 3 to 6 months for them to build their skills and then actually roll out anything meaningful. As a startup,
Hmm.
probably, the entire startup might change in 6 months, right? So you want people who can come on board and start contributing on day one, right? So definitely in that case, you should then have few rounds to evaluate whether, again, instead of just asking them theoretical questions, best is to ask them to build something. Ask them to do, let's say, imagine that who would be the best person that you would want to have in the team, and then ask them to do that. Give them a day or two
Yeah.
instead of keeping it a 1 hour interview. Ask them to build something, see how they have built it. You might want to maybe spend some time with them, spend some four,
Yeah.
6, 8 hours with them, try to build something together, and then see whether they are able to build how you would want them to build stuff or not. So that might be, I
Yeah. Yeah.
think, a round of evaluation that would help.
Right, right, right. I think I will add one thing here, and then also your views on this. So, because specifically he had asked Flutter, Prashant had asked. So I think the sweet spot here is to look at domain expertise also, not like a completely general problem solving. It gets hard that whether they'll able to ship or not. But
Yeah,
also, I think don't look at super specific. Like, don't think about Flutter, but think how good a mobile developer they are. And I say this because when you're early stage startup, things pivot also very fast. You might start building a Flutter app, then you realize that we have to build native because certain thing we have to interact with maybe NFC in our app, and then that can't be done with Flutter. We have to write some native code. How well that person understands mobile development in general, not iOS, not Android, not Flutter, not like that, but do they think about a mobile user? That conversation is generally this has been my experience also. Like when I hired for my startup, so people who always thought about how a web user is going to use the website, how like what notifications should be sticky, we should need a service worker, all of these things, and we got on board. So we used to work on a very not so common front end framework, Ember. Nobody knew Ember when they joined. Everybody learned Ember at work. So it's just me, my friend, we started building. Somehow we knew a little bit of Ember, so we had started working on Ember. Then everybody joined, they knew React or Vue or something like that, and they learned Ember while working. So it is not possible in India to look for Ember talent at all. Junior level is not possible. But people who were, good eye for design, who thought about web front ends in a holistic way, that helped a lot. So indexing on that domain part is probably very important, I would say.
right, right.
So yeah, I think one question is probably going ahead into the future, and today everything looks very competitive. It looks like everybody is looking for 50, 100 engineers, and they are every month not even able to close one or two openings. That's what everybody keeps saying. So how will the situation remain going ahead, like 6 months into the future, or and then also like say 2, 3 years into the future? What's your prediction there? Will it remain competitive? Will the number of
Right,
software engineer jobs keep increasing? Salaries are
right,
also increasing these days. Will that also, the trend
right.
will continue? Will that plateau? Will the peak will go down? How will that will
Right,
happen?
right, right. No, see, software engineering market is going to remain competitive for sure. As I was saying that even the best economist, everyone agrees to the fact that software is going to eat the world. Every industry, everything is going to be driven by softwares in future, right? If that is going to happen, then like people who can do that, software engineers, are always going to remain in demand. The number of software engineering jobs are predicted to grow massively in coming years as well, right? So if the number of jobs are increasing, it's very natural that there will be a lot of demand for that. The pool right now, of course, is shallow. However, what I do believe is that the number of people who are much better software engineers are going to increase substantially, and to quite an extent, I think that's the mission that Scalar is on, that ensure that uh, there's a massive supply of, there's no shortage of tech talent in country, right? There should be abundance of tech talent, people who can build very very impactful softwares to change the world, right?
Right.
uh, in terms of salaries, etc., what I do see is that, of course, recently we have seen a massive jump in the average salaries, right?
Yeah.
Now the
Yeah.
growth rate, it is not going to. What I can definitely say is that often, some pessimists might say that, oh, it's temporary. In some time the salaries will reduce. No, that is not going to happen. Salaries are not going to reduce. The rate of growth might reduce a little bit, right? Because in any
Yeah.
way, it so happen that, initially it will grow very steeply, then it
Yeah.
will grow at a smaller pace, and then it will stabilize for many years, right?
Right. Right.
uh, so that is what I believe is going to happen. But trust me that software engineering jobs are not going anywhere, they are only going to increase. What to anyone who is in the field of software engineering or intend to get into the field of software engineering, the important point that I would emphasize on, focus on improving your skills, focus on becoming a software engineer who can actually build very high quality products, right? If you have that, it's you will never face an issue. Like, to be very candid, personally, I do not know anyone in my personal network circles who are very solid engineers but are ever worried about a very high paying job, right? This is,
Right.
I think, one interesting question. Sometime back, we had hosted Amod, who was Flipkart CTO and
Yeah.
currently is co-founder of Udan, on one of the session. And someone asked him that, Amod, you were Flipkart CTO, and how did you decide that you will leave that and start a company, right? A startup, right?
Yeah.
And his answer was that, yeah, and actually I can relate a lot with that question, because when we quit our jobs, me and Anshuman, when we quit our jobs, many have asked this question to us as well, that, how did you quit your job at Facebook or Fab and thought that, we'll take risk. The fact is that there was never any risk. If you
Hmm.
are so good at skills, you know that it will not take you more than few days to get a very highly lucrative job again, right?
Right.
You know that you have the skills. So your security comes from your skills, not with, whether you are employed
Yes.
somewhere or not. So focus on
Yeah.
the skills. If you are able to build very solid skills, I think that gives you a lot of confidence.
Right. 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 When we talk about all of these things, we don't talk much about what are the things we are doing at Scalar, but we should, I think. But on a closing note, a lot of the companies who are hiring from us, a lot of new initiatives we are doing. Maybe you can shed a little light on things like we are doing batch days and a lot of hiring partners we are getting on board. And I think these days, every month we have 200, 300 new people in the pool who are ready to join
Right,
the
right,
tech
right.
industry.
No, so
So,
overall,
so
skill
what all are we
definitely.
doing? And then, what any message for companies who are looking to hire?
Right, right, right. No, so see, I think, like fair play, we talked about that. Scalar fair play is something that we are building, where we very strongly believe that people who are very strong with their skills, and a lot
Yeah,
of companies are, willing to hire them irrespective of their backgrounds. And often, these people are much more impactful because they come with such diverse outlook to the world. Uh, and they often are able to, add massive value to any startup or large organization. So fair play, I am very excited about fair play that we are building. Scalar batch days is something that we conduct very frequently now, where, like on a 2-3 day virtual career fair, the companies can present even all the way, like kind of, like a very young startup gets the same stage, like let's say a very large organization, where a founder himself can come present to a large community of engineers of 6 7 thousand, and tell that what the company is about, why it is a great company to be part of, right? And then you can
right.
conduct multiple rounds of interviews in the exclusive ways, hire the people, who might be best fit for your team. So yeah, like these are some of the most, I think, interesting things that we are doing. And it's a community of, as I say, that if there's a community of 6 7 thousand engineers who are all really best engineers in the ecosystem, I think,
Yeah,
and I do hope that, like in the next coming year, we will increase this number to maybe few tens of thousands. So
right.
very, very excited about everything that is going on.
Awesome, awesome. So we are also on time, just wrapping up an hour. So it was a, I think, a great conversation. I really think that people who are early stage founders, especially who are hiring, they might have gotten some good points here. And if you're looking to hire good tech talent, although the market is competitive, but you can come to us at Scalar. We can definitely help you with that. And to everybody looking for jobs, a golden era. All the best
Right.
to everybody.
Just focus on
And
building your skills, and you cannot go
yeah,
wrong.
correct, correct, correct. And any other questions anybody has, you feel free to drop your comments below on the video even later. And then please do, subscribe to our channel if you are interested in more such conversations like this. And we'll meet you next Sunday then.
Absolutely. See you, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.